Welcome back to Playing Voodoo. I'm your host Derek, and today I want to highlight Australian Survivor, the finale. Yes, so I have not posted reactions to episodes 21, 22, 23. My reactions wouldn't have been much different from the content that I've been putting on YouTube. So rather, I just wanted to enjoy the episode. So I sat back, watched 21, 22, 23, and the finale, episode 24, the other night. And now I want to give my reaction of what went down. Yeah. So, wow. Liz is the sole survivor. She played a great game. She's a deserving winner at that. I know Alex thinks the same. I will be linking his reaction later on in this recap, so stay tuned for that. But Liz, she probably is the best cast out of the new players that we saw on this season for Heroes vs. Villains. We saw her with the Spice Girls initially, her, Shawnee, and George. Then we saw her with Shawnee. We saw all those mat chats between her and Shawnee after they were split between the Heroes and Villains tribe. Made for very entertaining television, to say the least. We even saw her once she claimed mutiny at one of the tribal councils to rejoin the Spice Girls, Shawnee and George. And she threatened George. Yes, the one person this season we kind of saw threaten George to do what they wanted, and it worked. Yes, on that vote, they saved Flick and they sent Stevie home. As Stevie was just he caught the wrong end of it. More on Liz. She played an idol. Now at the time it wasn't a correct play, but I did note in my episode recap, I thought it was a smart play playing her idol near merge. I believe it was on Shawnee at the time. Good idol play. And yeah, she formed an alliance with Shawnee even further than the Spice Girls, that being the Shiz Alliance. And George saw that as a threat. He took out Shawnee. And I was hoping that Liz would strike at George sooner than later. Go back and listen. Those were my thoughts. I was big fans of the Shiz Alliance, and it did not happen. It did not happen. What we rather saw instead was Liz take a more measured approach and continue working with George, kind of lull him into a false sense of security that she was with him until the end, but that was not to be the case. No. And when she needed it most, she won immunity. Yes, I don't think she's in that final three if she does not win the last immunity challenge. And it was a gnarly challenge, having to hang with both hands maintained on the piece of wood along with the water beating down on you from cliffside. It was quite entertaining. She's a great winner. She played a part in big blindsides that we also saw at the merge, the blindside of Haley. Yeah, Liz, very much a deserving winner. Loved her presence on this season. She was definitely one of the bright spots of the season. So Liz, I just want to say thank you for making the season what it was. I really appreciated covering it and watching it through. Yeah, and you made it quite entertaining. So the other people I do want to talk about before we get into the big elephant in the room, that being George, let's give some kudos to Matt and Jerry, or let's just cover them at least. So Matt and Jerry, it's interesting. Jerry, I do understand where he's coming from. At Final Four, the one thing I want to say, he wanted to give up. I'm not a fan of people that just give up at any point on Survivor. It's just not cool. Everyone wants to be on Survivor, so giving up that mentality it's just not cool. And Matt and Liz, do not let him give up because they need to take out George in that instance. And Jerry probably was right in his assessment that he had no chance of winning. I've also assumed that was the case due to the number of confessionals we have not gotten from Jerry. Almost all of season, we have not gotten his story or how he's been a part of big moves. I will give him credit. He was pivotal for George's gameplay, and they were quite close, and they took out a lot of returning players. Yes, the entire jury was filled with returning players. Wild. But at the same token, that final tribal with Jerry, oof, it was a nightmare to say the least. Sean questioning him and the real connections that Jerry made. That's a fair assessment. We didn't really get to see Jerry play too much. Or we didn't really see him on screen too often, I should say. But what we did see is that he was against all of the original heroes that voted him out initially and sent him to the villains tribe. Sean was obviously one of them. Sam, Flick among the others, and yeah, it just seems like I guess Jerry didn't make real connections. And if you're out there in Survivor, that's one of the most important things you have to do is make genuine connections with people. But at the same token, you have to vote them out. It's a fine line. It's a fine line to really play that style. And just Jerry didn't have the full picture of it. And funny enough, it's quite similar to how George played his first time on Australian Survivor Brains vs. Bronze. Now, I'm not comparing Jerry to George in any measure other than this. Socially, George was lacking during Brain vs. Bronze. He was all strategy, essentially. This time around, he fine-tuned his game. He changed it quite tremendously to be not only a strategic player, but a social player. And Jerry was very much lacking in the social department. And the reason I want to compare those two together is because I believe it was at Final Five, Jerry compared their relationship with George to that as a mentor. That George is a mentor of this game. He's one of the best, if not the best, to play this game, and he wants to learn from him. So, yeah, he learned from George, and that definitely was a game that was similar to, in the aspect socially, that George played on Brain vs. Brawn. And yeah, Jerry had no chance of winning. So Matt, let's move on to Matt. So they had a chance at Final Four. There was a non-elim episode prior to the finale in which they got to choose one person to be removed from the jury. And they chose to remove Shawnee. Yes, that was a good decision on their part. Although it definitely tipped their hand that they were probably going to be taking Liz at the end, because why remove Shawnee if your rationale is, hey, we're afraid that she'll vote for Liz? Well, why would you be afraid if Liz isn't there? We're afraid she's going to win immunity. Well, are you insinuating that you're going to vote me out then? That's essentially the path that I went down in, like, from George's perspective. Made no sense from Matt and Jerry, but I completely understand voting Shawnee in this instance rather than Simon. Makes complete sense. Shawnee was going to vote for Liz. She even admitted it herself. But I don't think Matt or Jerry quite understood how much the jury loved Liz. No, they did not at all, because the vote ended up being 7-0-0. So a fumble on Matt's part. I do think, yeah, there's really not a scenario where Matt wins Australian Survivor. If he made a ploy against George at like 8 or 7, got him out then, maybe. But I don't think he beats George, obviously. He doesn't beat Nina. Probably doesn't, yeah, he doesn't beat Simon. So he would have had to have made big moves without being seen as just a piece in George's plans, as we saw at Final Tribal Council as well. George and others were not giving, like Matt couldn't think of one move that he did on his own in this game, and it was sad. It was sad to see that a lot of the moves that he believes he did were actually seen through the jury's perspective as being an assistant to George's moves or others' moves in this game. And yeah, so let's get into the big elephant in the room, George. So George, yes, he's definitely 100% without a doubt the greatest Australian Survivor player we've ever seen. I will not. I'm not going to stray from that. The only other one that I would suggest is Haley, who also played on both seasons that George played on. But George, wow. Strategically, we've seen nothing like him before. To be honest, the only I know Alex on a terms of like where he ranks all time in Survivor lore. He wants to put him on the same field, if not slightly below or slightly above, around Suri. And we all know how Suri is revered amongst the Survivor community. One of the best to not win, and regardless, still just one of the best Survivor players ever that we've seen. And yeah, George was so much fun this season. He's definitely the funnest player that I've seen play Australian Survivor. I've only watched seasons 3 through 8 now. I need to go back and watch seasons 1 through 2. But I started watching, my first season of Australian Survivor that I watched was Brain vs. Brawn, because they had a person on at the time, Chelsea, who competed on Dana White Contender Series, which is a mixed martial arts fight to compete for a contract in the UFC, and that was interesting to me. So I gave it a go, and from there I started with George, and now we're back at George, and it's been a ride. It's been quite a ride, and he's so much fun just gravitating on the TV. He even looked. I saw that Survivor AU Twitter mentioned that he looked like White Goodman from Dodgeball, which is Ben Stiller's character. That's quite funny. Can't lie. I wish I came up with that before they did, but they beat me to the punch. But yeah, George, I can't say I'd love to see him on a U.S. season, because I don't think the U.S. season deserves a player of his caliber, to be honest. It can only be done on the AU seasons, and yeah, I'm glad that he gets to live amongst the AU lore. But I will say, if he does want to play on U.S. Survivor, I'm more than happy to see him play on U.S. Survivor. That would be a treat. Love to see a U.S. Survivor season versus an Australian Survivor season. Maybe that's going to be in the works. Let's get it going, Jeff Probst. I know Alex and I will probably be creating a hypothetical Australian Survivor cast versus a U.S. Survivor cast. That'd be quite fun. Yeah. This season overall, Australian Survivor Heroes vs. Villains it is the best Australian Survivor season that I've ever seen. From the Cookie Idol early on to the big blind side of Fraser, handed down by George, and that tribal council was quite explosive. We also saw another idol play between Liz and Jordy, with the Matt chats handing the idols between challenges, also with Sean and Flick. And then come merge, we see the big David blindside, and the pity party forms, and they're pretty much picked off one by one as the Vigilantes is also formed a new alliance that propels George, Liz, Jerry, and Matt all the way to the very end. Just a very entertaining season. Loved the challenges. Loved every aspect of it. There's really not one thing I would change about Australian Survivor. And I'm looking forward to what's next. I'm really looking forward to what's next. I hope they keep going down this rabbit hole of choosing these theme seasons that U.S. Survivor has already done. Because right now, U.S. Survivor is kind of in a dry spell. All these seasons are blending because there's no real theme to these seasons. So, what's next for Australian Survivor? I don't know. Maybe we see like Millennials versus Gen X. That'd be quite cool. I would very much enjoy that. Yeah. Um, I do think that they should maybe only do new cast for this next season or two, because they're kind of almost exhausting their entire returning player pool at this point. So yeah, let's get like a millennials versus Gen X season. David versus Goliath. I'd love that, especially with the challenges that Australian Survivor creates. That'd be quite entertaining, but at the same time, probably a predictable outcome. And the one thing going against David versus Goliath, I know Alex has harped on this, is that the issue is that the public is obviously has a rooting interest in David, because why would they cheer for Goliath? Completely understandable, but I still think that's one of the best U.S. Survivor seasons, and I'd very much like to see it in Australian Survivor. So yeah, that wraps up my season recap and the finale recap for Australian Survivor Heroes vs. Villains. If you liked what you heard, be sure to check out our U.S. Survivor content that we are covering. Yes, we are also covering season 44 for Survivor that's currently airing. Just posted episode 4 on the YouTube and Spotify. Be sure to check that out. And we will be posting recaps as the season goes along. So stay tuned for that. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at PlayingVoodooPod. Like or listen wherever you are listening. Yeah, YouTube or Spotify. And let me know down in the comments. What'd you think of this Australian Survivor season? I want to hear from you guys. Where does this rank amongst the rest of the Australian Survivor seasons? As I said, I've only watched 3 through 8, so I want to hear from perspectives from around the world for those that have seen multiple seasons of Australian Survivor, where they would rank this season. Additionally, I will be sharing some audio that I pre-recorded with Alex for Liz winning Australian Survivor, so stay tuned for that. It'll be coming up in a matter of seconds. For now, this is Playing Voodoo, where split vote is not safe. Okay, Alex, so we just saw Liz become the winner of Australian Survivor Heroes for Villains. What's your reaction?
Yeah, if it wasn't going to be George, should have been her, so I can live with it. I don't know. It felt like a very Pia kind of win, in my opinion. You remember Pia, right?
Yep.
With Luke. And it seemed like George was like Luke, in a way. And, I don't know who the hell was Dirty Harry in this, but it seemed she kind of like a Pia win, like it was, or Jericho almost, where it's like the main ally didn't, the main character didn't win. It was the sidekick kind of, and that was Liz, and she played a good game.